Good morning from a very cold Manchester, New Hampshire. Welcome back to a special live edition of At Issue. We appreciate you being here with us this morning. I'm Corey Smith alongside Sue O'Connell. Why are we in the Granite State? Of course, there's a big primary coming up on Tuesday, the first in the nation primary.
We have a lot to get to this half hour. Before we turn it over to Kristen Welker and Meet the Press at 10:30. First, here's our latest exclusive Suffolk University NBC 10 Boston Globe, New Hampshire primary tracking poll. 500 likely Republican primary voters were asked who is their first choice. Former President Donald Trump has increased his lead. He's up 2 percentage points from yesterday to 55%.
Yeah, no change for Nikki Haley, though, in second. Still in second place overnight at 36%, and Ron DeSantis still in third place. He's actually shifted his focus out of New Hampshire, and you might understand why with his support sitting at 6%. Still 2% of voters undecided out there.
Yep, we got here this morning. Actually, I got here last night. Corey got here this morning. But one man has been crisscrossing this state just as much as any candidates. He's been here many days. In the last few days, let's welcome in NBC 10 Boston's political reporter, Matt Pritchard. Matt, welcome in.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
How's life in New Hampshire treating you so far?
You know, so far so good. I mean, it's warmer than Iowa, and I will take
That's good.
You know, Iowa was freezing cold. Here in New Hampshire, the temperatures have dipped down a little bit, but it really hasn't stopped the campaign trail from heating up, both on the Democratic side and the Republican side. We're focused on the GOP, it seems like, the majority of the time, but the Democratic side of the ballot does have a little bit of intrigue to it, right, guys? I mean, we have President Joe Biden, who's trying to rely on a write-in effort after trying to move South Carolina higher up in the process. And so anyways, we also have Dean Phillips. We have Marianne Williamson, who are trying to challenge him and perhaps gain some momentum here in the Granite State. We caught up with Dean Phillips earlier on yesterday, as well as some of the surrogates for the candidates. Take a look for what we saw. From crowded rooms to frigid street corners, surrogates of former President Donald Trump and current President Joe Biden are looking to drum up support in New Hampshire.
This is Trump country.
Inside Trump campaign headquarters, New York Representative Elise Stefanik calling on voters to build off a landslide win in Iowa.
We need to get this done right here in New Hampshire. Thank you so much for all this.
And speaking with the media afterwards.
President Trump have taken part in the New Hampshire debates, the two that were canceled.
You know, those debates are for second place. President Trump is the clear winner. I've always said he's the presumptive nominee.
Also making the Granite State rounds.
Can I get a...
Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, who's urging voters to write in Joe Biden. The commander-in-chief isn't on the ballot following an effort to move South Carolina higher in the process. Do you think it was a poor choice by Joe Biden not to be on the ballot here in New Hampshire?
I can't pretend to understand the many, many complexities of his schedule and the DNC. I'm certainly not in those decision-making rooms. I'm here to share from our experience in Boston.
One other moment worth mentioning.
Anybody want some coffee?
Thank you.
No? How about coffee? Oh, here's some more people.
Across the street from Biden supporters, Dean Phillips' Manchester office. The long-shot Democratic challenger seizing the moment.
Where is he? Where is he? Where is the President of the United States? Forget even being here physically. Why is he not on the ballot?
And that is the beauty of New Hampshire, those unique moments that can take place out on the street. Sort of an interesting decision there for them to hold that event right across the street from Dean Phillips' campaign headquarters. So a unique moment in New Hampshire. We'll just have to wait and see if, I guess, Dean Phillips can pull off some sort of upset and win New Hampshire.
You know, Matt, one of the fun things about being up here, both for press and for the candidates, is there's a lot of Massachusetts people up here. What's been your take on the crowds? Are the Massachusetts people just a minority, or are they in some places a majority?
It depends on the candidate. I mean, I've been at Nikki Haley events where it feels like every voter I try to go up and talk to says, oh yeah, we drove up from Massachusetts this morning, just to get a sense of the different candidates. It's definitely a big family here in New England, and everyone tries to come in and take advantage of what New Hampshire provides.
Dean Phillips, we talked to him last week and just straight up asked him, you wanted other people to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
Here you are doing it. Why should somebody vote for somebody who didn't want to be in this race to begin with? And he said, he admitted it. Yeah, I wanted somebody else with more name recognition to be here. Do you think he is all in? Do you think he believes that he can actually win this, not just primary, but this race?
Well, I'm thinking back to when Asa Hutchinson told me he'd be in the race until Super Tuesday.
Yeah, he's going to be in Massachusetts.
That's right. That's right. Every candidate tells you that they think they have a shot to win the race. But Dean Phillips, every time I've spoken with him, he's a very optimistic and seemingly very honest person. I don't think he would be continuing this if he didn't think he had a shot at least of challenging President Biden. Obviously, we know a lot of people have concerns about his age and all those different things we talk about, but he's certainly not making any friends in his party by being here. That's for sure.
Do you feel there's a 2028 vibe going on here with some of these candidates?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And I think voters feel that way, too. It's almost like, everyone is just assuming that we're going to have this rematch of 2020, and everyone's like, let's just get through this, let's get done with it, and then everybody will focus on 2028 and try and do this again.
All right, Matt Pritchard, you're going to be back with us at 11:30. Don't go far. Don't go. Gallivanting out of one of the diners.
I've been watching you guys. Fantastic. Yes.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, we have some new data from the Secretary of State on how many people are registered to vote in New Hampshire. As of this past Friday, the state has 267,000 voters registered as Republicans, 261,000 Democrats, and 344,000 registered as undeclared. Now, remember that in New Hampshire, undeclared voters get to choose whether they want a Democratic or a Republican ballot when they go to vote. And New Hampshire has a total of 873,000 registered voters. The Secretary of State is predicting a little less than half of all those voters will show up. 322,000 Republicans, 88,000 Democrats. But again, that's just a prediction, Corey.
Yeah, we know what predictions and maybe the polls usually end up at. All right, our next two guests are both young lawmakers in Manchester. One is a Republican and the other is a Democrat. State Rep Damond Ford, a Democrat, here is sitting next to Sue. He represents Manchester up at the State House. And Mayor Jay Ruais, to my left, a Republican who was sworn in as the 49th mayor of Manchester just a few weeks ago. Both of you fresh off the campaign trail. We appreciate you being here. What have you been hearing from voters out there? Damond, we'll start with you. We'll come to Jay after that.
Well, the first thing is that this is a time for folks to really know the issues, and it's really hard because not all candidates are able to get news time and TV time and airtime, but everyone's calling for a change, and everyone wants to see change, and I think right now we need to see that from our candidates, but also from our already elected officials like myself and Mayor Ruais. So,
what kind of change, though? What are you hearing?
Not the same thing. We need younger folks in elected office. We need folks with new ideas, fresh ideas. We need voices from all parts of the population. We need young folks to be speaking up, but we also need to recognize that we have folks with experience that also can lead us. And so how do we bridge those gaps of the young and the experience and make sure we have a path forward? And I think that's what people are looking for.
Jay, all politics is local. What are you hearing from your constituents?
No, that's exactly right. And we knocked on over 41,000 doors last year in our campaign. And since we were sworn in 2 weeks ago, the message has been strikingly consistent. The things that we are concerned with here in the city of Manchester, homelessness, public safety, underlying drivers of some of those concerns being addiction and mental health, and then, of course, certainly affordable housing, which kind of goes into both of those issues. So, since we were sworn in, that's where the voters want our focus to be in City Hall.
Are you hearing that focus being discussed on the campaign trail, those pocketbook, those kitchen table issues?
I do hear an awful lot of it, yes. I mean, candidly, since we've been in for 2 weeks, my focus has been right here in the mayor's office. Haven't had a lot of time to delve into national politics. But I do think in New Hampshire, we do demand that level of one-on-one conversation. People have to come to our VFW halls, our town halls, come right into our living rooms. So my assumption is that we're continuing on that trend to demand those answers to the things that we care about here on the local level.
One of the things we hear a lot about is gun violence and addiction, as you talked about. And when you talk to young voters, you hear about climate change, the climate crisis, and access to safe abortion. What are you hearing from your voters and your constituents and the folks when you're talking about those issues and how the older elected officials may or may not be responding to it?
Well, I think Mayor spoke on a lot of things that we are both on both sides of the aisle, both are hearing from our constituents. Affordable housing, making sure that we tackle the addiction, but climate change is one of those things, and the rights to abortion are also important to young people. And I think a lot of times what we need to do is recognize all the things are connected. We can't tackle affordable housing unless we're talking about work, and we can't talk about places that we can live unless we know that the environment is sustainable for them to live there. So young people recognize that. We just have to educate everyone on the issues to make sure they see every piece is connected.
Sure. So, I mean, in my conversation since we've been in office, it really has been about what we can control and work on at the local level, irrespective of party politics. It is a nonpartisan municipal office, so the things that we talk about every day at City Hall are the things that we can control. Homelessness, or make a concerted effort to make a difference in, like homelessness, public safety, addiction, and that's what we've been trying to do since the beginning, is bringing people together and focusing on the things that both we can control but work together on.
Earlier in the show, we heard from Ava Castillo, an advocate for immigrants and refugees. You're on the ground in Manchester, New Hampshire. What does that issue look like to you? What challenges are you all facing?
Sure. So my wife is from Peru, and she immigrated here in 2005, and she has a tremendous story about some of the challenges that we went through. So Ava and I have a fantastic relationship. Her and I talk frequently about the issues that are of concern to the immigrant community, and I was honored to have her at one of my first transition meetings that we had. So making sure that we're reaching out to people across both the political spectrum, those who are in the immigrant community as well, making sure that we're being responsive to their needs and their concerns is certainly a high priority for me.
What do you make of some of the rhetoric that we've heard, and I'm specifically talking about the former president? You know, these folks are poisoning the blood of this country. When you hear words like that, how does that sit with you, especially when you talk about the Republican Party as a whole and needing to bring in Latino votes, Hispanic votes, minority votes to secure the White House?
Broadly speaking, I think it's incumbent upon all of us who hold elected office and anybody that wants to get involved in the political process to make sure that we are trying to bring people together, both with our words and with our actions, and making sure that our language is reflective of that.
How about you? What's your reaction to when you hear the candidates speak about immigration and immigrants in that way?
It's disgusting. I'm a humanist, and I see if you're looking for a new way forward, a path forward, a future that you want for your family, and to call you poisoning the blood of a nation, that's disgusting to me. I think folks who come here for a new life and a new way forward hope that the American dream is real for them, and to have someone who wants to be the leader of this country to say something like that doesn't make it seem like an American dream. It potentially could be an American nightmare.
Let's talk about Joe Biden. I have to say I love Dean Phillips' ad with Bigfoot in it. I have to say it might be one of my favorite political ads in a long time. What's the level of enthusiasm from Democrats around the Joe Biden write-in campaign? I keep saying this is a 2028 problem for the Democratic Party and for New Hampshire, but what are you hearing about how the write-in campaign is going and how voters feel about Joe Biden not being here?
I think there's huge momentum behind the write-in Joe Biden campaign. I am not one of those folks with the write-in Joe Biden campaign, but I will say there's a lot of energy, and we need that in this election. With the DNC pulling out the primary, we need Democrats to be energized and fired up, going beyond just our primaries, but going toward November, and so I think that's the case now.
Why aren't you on the campaign, the write-in campaign?
You got to show up. Mayor Ruais said it. You got to come here and shake hands and kiss the babies, and Joe Biden did none of that. He didn't even sign his name up. So I will let him do his thing, and I will be casting my vote for someone else.
Are there any issues that we, the media, are not talking about that you think are going to ultimately play a role, not just in the primary, but moving forward to the general?
Sure. So, I mean, I think you guys have done an awful lot of work in talking with the people that are here in the city and around the state, and my working assumption would be is that we are not shy here in New Hampshire about telling you where we stand on issues, so I'm sure you're hearing it. But, you know, going back to what I said earlier, I think the primary issues that we are addressing here in the city of Manchester, whether it's affordable housing or homelessness, public safety with bail reform. Was honored to have the representative up with me in Concord when we held a press conference on that, seeking to further bridge the gap that I think that exists on fixing the bail reform issues we have here. But no, I think we've been really excited to see the First in the Nation process continue to play out. Century-long tradition. It's incredibly important for us.
Haley's been here. DeSantis has been here. Donald Trump has been here. What do you make of the race as it stands, less than 48 hours to the primary?
Yeah, I've been in office 2 weeks.
Not been in
primarily focused on the things we can control here at the local level, but I appreciate the effort.
All right.
All right, so when I talk to a lot of young adults, I hear about artificial intelligence, I hear about Bitcoin. I understand that the candidates have to get votes in order to win, but I don't hear a lot of them, either in the Democratic folks or the Republican folks, candidates talking about that. What do you hear?
I think the mayor spoke on it, right? Those national issues aren't necessarily what we in New Hampshire are talking about all the time, and I think those issues about Bitcoin and the environment are things that young people are definitely talking about. We just have to wait through the circus of the presidential campaign before we actually can start talking about the issues that matter to the citizens.
So. And the circus is a compliment.
Yes. We all love circuses, right? Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Damond Ford, Mayor Jason Ruais. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Best of luck in office and your term. Congratulations on the election and being sworn in and everything.
Let's
do it. All right. When that issue returns, we're going to introduce you to two women in New Hampshire who may have seen more of the Granite State than maybe some of the candidates have this cycle. At Issue is back after this.
Who's this Ryan Binkley? So who is Ryan Binkley? He's trending a little bit on X right now.
Yeah.
People are wondering, who's this guy that made it past several governors, a couple billionaires, vice president, others, just outlasted him.
Outlast, outplay, it's like Survivor. Trump, DeSantis, Haley, you've heard of them, but who is Ryan Binkley? That's Brian Binkley. I'll get it. Ryan Binkley. It's the first time I've been saying his name on television, I think. He's a Republican from Texas who's pretty unknown, but he's running for the GOP nomination. He finished 5th at the Iowa caucus last week, but he was ahead of Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson.
He outlasted Vivek. He's outlasted Doug Burgum. I'll give credit to him. Of course, he's just one of the candidates who have held events the last few days in New Hampshire. With a little less than 48 hours to go, all of them are out and about making their final pitch to voters. And you still have a chance to go out there and meet them. You can scan the QR code right there on your screen. That's going to take you to our candidate tracker showing the events that they have coming up in New Hampshire.
And that's just part of our Decision 2024 coverage online. NBC 10 Boston is your home for all things New Hampshire primary, real-time results as they come in on Tuesday night. Plus, you can access all of our exclusive polls, including the one we discussed earlier this half hour.
All right, Sue, one of the biggest questions that I've had as a non-New Englander is why does New Hampshire get to go first? Why should New Hampshire go first? And when you talk to residents about why, well, they say the state should be home to the first in the nation primary because of the role that they have in vetting candidates. They're engaged, they're accessible, they're active. And I know you found a pair of women who take that responsibility very seriously.
That's an understatement, Corey. I did. These two women are committed, they're engaged, and they've taken the term civic duty to a whole new level. Check them out. I went to an event for the No Labels political organization last summer. West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin and former Utah Governor Jon Huntsman were speaking, hinting then at a third-party run. And I started speaking to two women who were in attendance and found out these were no political newcomers. I stayed in touch with Marie Mulroy and Laura Landerman Garber, and we agreed to meet up at another political event. They suggested an event known as the Lesser Known Candidate Forum. It included quite the cast of characters. The guy with the boot on his head, Vermin Supreme, a perennial candidate. Also, there's Paperboy Love Prince. And Marie and Laura showed up to listen to their ideas and vet them, a sign of true dedication. And we started our conversation talking about that event.
This is America, you know, where you want to run for president and you can. You know, they all seem pretty realistic about their pathway. But without them, I think we're less of a tapestry. I think we just need to hear them, hear their voices.
And so it's interesting, they bring things that makes you richer as a voter. There's like 2 or 3 that I would say really are very serious, and they just haven't.
Yeah.
They just haven't gotten their day in the sun and they don't have name recognition.
So this isn't your first event this election cycle.
No.
How many events, candidates?
I can't even, like, I've been to all the candidates, met all of them face to face. We've had breakfast, we've had lunch. Well, you know, I think we represent New Hampshire, but we are a little extra, as they say. That's what my kids would say. You're extra, Mom, because we go. We seek it out, and we find Republican, Independent, we find the lesser-known candidates, the Democrats. We go to all this stuff.
I think it's all been fun. The fact that you can watch, and for me, which is fun, is to watch somebody like a Chris Christie. And I've seen him, probably we've done like 5 or 6 of his town halls.
I was at a house party. It was a very serious topic. It was about Israel. He had just returned from Israel. He walked in the door, he and Mary Pat, and he looked up and he was, very solemn about everything. He looked at me and he goes, "Oh my God, it's you again." And she's like, "Chris, you can't say that. This could be a voter." And he's like, "Yeah, but it's her. She's from the Granite State. I'm from Jersey. We get each other." I had DeSantis' staff called me 3 times after an event. It was a very emotional event about anti-Semitism. And I was stunned. Like, how did you find me? But that's cool. And then we had these discussions that stuff would get lost.
What are you hearing from your neighbors that they're concerned about in this presidential election that might be motivating them to vote?
It's just prices. I mean, you talk about that. There's this inflation may be going down, but if you're paying $28 for Tide, and you've got a small child, and you're doing 5 loads, and and so you're making a decision between washing your clothes and eating. I think gun safety is driving people to the polls.
In New Hampshire?
Yeah, and you hear that at every town hall. Every town hall, you heard it tonight.
I think mental health is huge. Whether it's veterans, whether it's children, whether adolescents, I think that's huge. Education, I think health care, I think gun safety, women's reproductive rights.
What's your experience of this campaign season here this time around?
To me, I think the overarching problem with this is that the RNC and the DNC have already picked the candidate, and so they're trying to back into it and make it look like it's a choice, when I think really...
Do you think that?
I do think that, yeah.
With the RNC more so?
Well, I think both. Since Citizens United, since the introduction of a ton of money into this, the people like this who used to be able to get known with house parties, I'm like Obama. I don't think Obama initially spent a ton of money on, and you could go to, I went to house parties for him, and Michelle Obama was talking about what the kids were wearing for Halloween, and, and so you don't miss that. You do miss that. You do miss that, and you miss kind of that flavor of it.
What are your thoughts about Joe Biden not being on the ballot, whether or not you were going to vote for him or not?
I think what he did was a disservice to himself and to New Hampshire. I mean, I think he thinks we're not diverse enough, and I get that. That I do get. But I think there is an honor, and I think we take it seriously here. I mean,
yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
We take it seriously.
I agree. The diversity is different than in other parts of the country, but this is not the Olympics where they change every 4 years.
Right.
This is kind of tradition.
All right, Sue, I know when you spoke to Marie and lawyer Laura, they were undecided at the time. Still a lot of undecided voters out there. Any clue on where they're going to lean come Tuesday?
They haven't texted me back.
They ghosted you?
Me. Maybe they ghosted me, but they will. Maybe in the next hour when we come back after Meet the Press, I'll have an answer.
It just goes to show that this race is not sealed up yet. Still some undecided voters out there who are waiting for that final pitch to see who they're going to ultimately tick the box or fill in the oval for come Tuesday.
On the edge of our seats. Okay, Meet the Press is coming up next. New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu and New Hampshire Senator Jean Shaheen will join Kristen Welker in Manchester. And then we're back live at 11:30 with more coverage of the New Hampshire primary.
Yeah, we're going to be joined by some young voters. New Hampshire has added a lot of them since the last primary. What do they want? What are their issues? We will speak to them when we return at 11:30. From my colleague Sue O'Connell, I'm Corey Smith. Thanks for joining us for a live edition of At Issue. We'll see you at 11:30. Meet the Press is next.